Well, there was no joy last night for the English teams in the UEFA Champions League. I'm talking about Newcastle United, Tottenham Hotspur, and of course Liverpool. It was really very tough for them, and that's why we call it the UEFA Champions League. Either you go hard or you go out of the competition. Welcome to another edition of Sport Hangout, where we bring the latest coming from the ever-busy world of sport. My name is Toby, and then we want to do a recap of what happened last night in the UEFA Champions League, the biggest inter-club competition in the world. Let's start with the early kickoff game that was played in Istanbul between Galatasaray and Liverpool. Now remember, that was the second time both teams will be meeting this season. In the group phase where Galatasaray defeated Liverpool in Istanbul, and the same thing happened yesterday. They got an early goal in the 7th minute, and then we thought that Liverpool were going to get the equalizer. But at the end of 90 minutes, Galatasaray were able to beat Liverpool by a long goal at Istanbul. Now, the second leg will come up at Anfield next week. And so there is still a lot to play for. Galatasaray have not qualified for the quarterfinals of the Champions League. And then the Liverpool manager, and Slot, in his post-match reaction, said, well, that they are expecting Galatasaray and that they will make it hostile for them when they take on Liverpool at Anfield next week. So I promise it to be interesting. This is a game that is still delicately poised. Galatasaray or Liverpool, they won yesterday. Victor Osimhen, by the way, was fantastic for Galatasaray. In fact, he was the one that provided the assist for Galatasaray to score their only goal against Liverpool. So congratulations to Galatasaray, but they have not qualified yet for the quarterfinals of the Champions League. We will know if they will skate through next week when they visit Anfield for the second leg in England. So that's about Liverpool. They lost yesterday. It's still delicately poised. We cannot rule out Liverpool because they can come back in the second leg. From Liverpool, let's move to Tottenham Hotspur now. For Tottenham, I don't even know how to describe their season because their season is going from bad to worse. I remember that a few weeks ago, they sacked Thomas Frank, and then they brought in Ugo Tudor to steady the ship at Tottenham Hotspur. But Ugo Tudor has not enjoyed what people call new manager bans because his first game was at home to Arsenal. He lost that game. And then, do you know that Ugo Tudor has led Tottenham Hotspur in 4 games already this season across all competitions since he became their interim manager? They have lost all 4 games in the Premier League, and of course in the Champions League. And then yesterday in Madrid against Atletico Madrid, he made a mistake. I brought in Kiski who is actually their second choice goalkeeper. I brought him on, and then Fikari, who has been fantastic for Tottenham Hotspur, was on the bench last night. And then the goalkeeper that was in goal made mistakes, and I think he was substituted in the first 17 minutes of that game, not because he got injured, but because the goalkeeper was making terrible mistakes. And then he removed him. But at the end of 90 minutes, Atletico Madrid defeated Tottenham Hotspur by 5-2. The damage had already been done before the goalkeeper was removed. So I'm trying to understand what is happening at Tottenham Hotspur. They are not doing very well in the league. And we thought that, well, they're also doing very well in the Champions League. But last night was a terrible performance for them in Madrid against Atletico Madrid. Now, but I must say at this point that this tie is not over. Remember that there is no away goal rule. So if Tottenham Hotspur defeats Atletico Madrid next week in London, 3-0, it means that they will go to extra time. And it is not impossible because we have seen Atletico Madrid over and over again. They've panicked when it mattered the most. Remember, some weeks ago, they defeated Barcelona in the Spanish Copa del Rey first leg, and then in the second leg at the Spotify Camp Nou, they started defending from the start of the game, and then they lost the game by 3-0. They were only lucky because they scored more goals in the first leg of that game. So this game is also delicately poised. Tottenham Hotspur lost 5-2 yesterday away in Madrid, but the second leg will be at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium next week. So you cannot rule out Tottenham Hotspur. But I must say the performance of Tottenham was poor yesterday. I mean, how can you go to Madrid and just lose your gas like that? They were so poor defensively, and the midfield was porous. The attack was also was disjointed. So they lost that game by 5-2. So the second English team to lose yesterday is Tottenham Hotspur after Liverpool. Now, just like I said in my introduction, that it was not a good day for English teams in the Champions League. Now, the third English team, Newcastle United. Now, they were within seconds away from winning that game yesterday against Barcelona at the St. James's Park. Now, Tottenham has been having this topsy-turvy season in the Premier League. They've not been consistent, and even their manager, Eddie Howe, has been talking about the fact that, well, they could beat Barcelona in the Champions League, and they almost did yesterday. I mean, so close So painful. They scored first in the first half through having Barnes, and with arguably the last kick of the game, Barcelona got an equalizer. Dani Olmo was brought down in the penalty box, and of course Lamine Yamal converted that penalty. Now I must say that was a clear penalty. Good movement by Dani Olmo. The defender had no choice because of the movement. He brought Dani Olmo down, and of course the referee had no other choice than just to point to the penalty spot. That Lamine Yamal scored a 96th minute equalizer for Liverpool for Barcelona yesterday. So it's 1-1. The second leg is all to play for at the Spotify Camp Nou next week. So can Newcastle United do the impossible? Because right now, if Newcastle United wants to progress to the next stage of the Champions League, they need to go to Spain and beat Barcelona at the Spotify Camp Nou. Also remember, there is not like the away goal, so they are starting this tie practically from the scratch next time when they play at the Spotify Camp Nou. So, but it's a tough one for Newcastle United. I mean, going to the Spotify Camp Nou because you couldn't win your first leg at home, you must do what will be an Herculean task by beating Barcelona. But of course, Barcelona, they have the advantage right now. The second leg will be in Camp Nou, so you expect them to finish off Newcastle United. But remember, this is the Champions League, and they call it the League of Champions. Yes, Barcelona, they are the experienced team. They have more quality than Newcastle United, but don't rule out upset. Don't rule out shocks. I mean, that's what makes football very interesting and dramatic. So I'm very sure I'm still going to see a lot of drama next week at the Spotify Camp Nou between Barcelona and Newcastle United. For now, the first leg ended 1-1 between Newcastle United and Barcelona. Lamine Yamal scoring a late equalizer for Barcelona through the penalty spot after Dani Olmo was brought down. But the question is, can Newcastle United do the impossible by beating Barcelona away from home? Now, this tie is probably over because Bayern Munich went to Italy, and Bergamo, thank God that Ademola Lookman has left that club. He has joined Atletico Madrid. At the end of 90 minutes yesterday, Atalanta played at home, but they lost scandalously at home 1-6 to Bayern Munich. I mean, if you can lose your first leg 1-6, the question is, are you going to Munich to beat Bayern Munich 5-0? I think this tie is practically effectively over in the first leg. I mean, these are Champions League ties that you say, oh, there's no need for a second leg. Yesterday, Michael Olise was fantastic for Bayern Munich, and for Harry Kane, who is just coming back from injury, the coach Vincent Kompany had the luxury of just putting him on the bench because the other guys came to the party. Gnabry, Michael Olise, Nicolas Jackson, who is on loan from Chelsea. Those guys did very well, and they were able to demolish Atalanta. So from the games played last night in the Champions League, 2 games are still poised. You can't predict who will progress to the next stage. Galatasaray, Liverpool. The second leg will be in Anfield. You expect Liverpool to come back. And then Newcastle United, Barcelona. What do you expect next week at the Spotify Camp Nou? But the game between Atalanta and Bayern Munich is effectively over. Well, if you like to, you can add the game between Tottenham Hotspur and Atletico Madrid. The second leg will be in England next week. So that's our review. What happened last night on the part of podcast for today. Please like, share, comment, and of course, we'll be willing. I mean, subscription is free. Just subscribe so that you can get more content from Sports Hangout. And of course, we'll be very happy to read your comment. On the next time that we are going to meet you, I remain Toby, and thank you.